2023 was a rough year.
I was doing taekwondo. The environment didn't work for me.
How important do you think it is for someone to connect with the sport?
You can't go train for 3 weeks, then you take a 3-week break. One guy's going to tackle you and you're going to break your leg.
Get married to rugby. You eat gymnastics, you live gymnastics, you sleep gymnastics, you watch gymnastics.
He was doing this thing called parkour.
Looks simple.
I have to motivate you. When your girlfriend dumped you,
That is when I started growing.
It's small little things. How do you do that? I wasn't strong.
you also have your different kinds of students. The students that lost are the people who Today, I'm going to have a discussion with Coach Andrew and Bernard in their capacity as traceurs. I've also been doing parkour for quite a while. I've been busy with parkour, but I have said that before, since 2012 about. So I've been in and around parkour for the better part of a decade, and it's really become a lifestyle. But now I want to discuss with them. They've been here a while. They've been here for a few years, and we're just going to have a chat in terms of what they've grown, how they've grown, where they were, where they are, that kind of thing. Which brings me to the ultimate question of them all: is how long have you been here? When did you start parkour?
I started in May of 2018. So in 2 months, I'll be on 6 years now.
That's a bit.
It's a lengthy bit, yes. I've been going for a long time.
You've also been a little boy when you started.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some photos, but
How old were you? You were 14 or 15.
Yes, I was 15.
15.
You can see in the Spring Parkour Academy showreel of 2018 how small. Oh, yeah.
Even some of the stuff here in the background with
Yes.
Gabriella, you were a baba.
Yeah, but this was also filmed a while ago.
Yeah.
When was this one?
I think some of these were filmed during lockdown.
Yes.
So that would have been 2020.
We'll try and find one.
But there he is.
there.
Look at that
With a
baba
long hair.
Dave and Anyway, let's not that.
What is this? Oh, this is the downward position.
Yes.
And you, Bernard, it feels like you've been here for yonks and yonks, but you're only 17 years old.
Yeah. It feels like I've been here since he's been here.
It actually slightly does, but if I have to think back at it, it's...
But you also started, how old were you when you started? You started when you were 14. 14, 15.
14.
In 14, thereabout.
14, yep. I was 14.
And why did you start parkour initially? You're a lockdown baby, we know that. There was nothing else to do. Let's be honest.
Yeah, actually.
Out of all of the sports, we were the only ones that were allowed to be open.
Yes.
At the stage. So we started, and you started just as we came out of lockdown. So all of the sports you used to do, let's start with that. What's the sports you used to do?
Well,
other than everything.
My whole life, I've always loved sports, and I've wanted to stick to a sport and not move on. And so the very first sport I started with was gymnastics, and then I did that for a while, and I can't even remember the reason why I stopped doing that. So I thought, this is my sport. I'm doing this for my life, and not quite long, I just moved on. And then I think swimming and so on. I ended up doing rugby, all the sports you could think of, even cricket. Yeah, everything. Horse riding, you name it. And just before I ended up here, I was doing taekwondo. That's like mixed martial arts type sport. Yep. And so yeah, I ended up here.
But how did you end up here? Because everything else was closed.
Yeah. Well, I think I just found all the other sports boring, and the environment that was to that sport just didn't work for me. I didn't connect with the people in that area, I would say. And then
And how? Sorry, Bernard. Now, Andrew, how important do you think it is for someone to connect with the sport that they're doing? Why do you think that's important?
It is important. It definitely plays a big role, because the moment you don't connect with something, you're going to leave. And when it comes to any sport, whether it's rugby, cricket, whether you want to do it professionally, whether you want to do it just as a hobby, you can't. We've seen it here at the academy a lot. You can't go train for 3 weeks, then you take a 3-week break, and then you come train for 5 weeks again, and then you take another few weeks break, because it breaks the cycle, and then you don't keep up. So specifically with, let's take the intense sports, let's say parkour, rugby, things where there's contact and risk involved. The moment you stop training, the risk gets so much higher. The moment in rugby, for instance, you stop overfeeding yourself, and you're this big oak that can take the blows, one guy's going to tackle you and you're going to break your leg or something like that. Same with here at parkour. If you stop training, the risk for falling and the risk for making a mistake in a movement that can cause an injury becomes higher. So just that aspect of connecting to a sport is important. But then you've also got the social side of things. If you come here, a lot of the sports are they're social events. I know that I did sports for people. I wanted to go and try and fit in with a group somewhere and try and be involved with something and have a group of people that I can actually talk to and be around with. But if you're around them for 5 weeks, then they don't see you for another 5 weeks, they're going to disconnect from you. So then you're going to come back and you're going to still be where you were 5 weeks ago, but they would have moved on. So in terms of the physical side of things, there's a lot more risk involved when you don't connect properly. And the social side of things, you're just never going to get into a clique or a group or whatever you would like to call it. It's just you're going to be excluded the whole time.
Personally, I always, you always have two different kinds of students. If we're going to divide in this bracket, you get students who, I would say it's a hobby, but it's not really, who come to train and they go home. You will always have those. But the students that last, the people that have staying power, I find are the people who start building a lifestyle. And I can see that throughout. You guys have mentioned cricket and rugby and the other sports that are out there, but gymnastics as well. Gymnastics not something you do as a hobby. It's not something you do when you feel like it. You live it. You eat gymnastics, you live gymnastics, you sleep gymnastics, you watch gymnastics. It becomes an entire lifestyle. When you want to grow in rugby and you want to get into that first team, and ultimately you're married to it. You get married to rugby. Your wife does the rugby with you. If I look at our team that won, it was last year now, that won the World Cup, it's them and their families. It's what they do. It becomes an entire lifestyle. So the academy ends up becoming a tribe, and the people who stay are the people that connect to the tribe, to the holistic thing. And then there is social and there is physical, but all the personal things come in. And I also often say it, that if you do a sport with regularity, doing a sport once a week, I don't feel is doing a sport. That's playing around. That's a hobby. You can go archery every now and then. You can leisurely horse riding. You can do every now and then. But if you really want to commit to a sport, you have to do it at least twice a week.
Yes.
And if you train here twice a week, it means that over a year I actually see you more than 80 times. I see you between 80 and 100 times, give or take a week that you miss, which means that as your coach, I'm in an entire year, I'm part of your winters, your summers, I'm part of your illnesses, I'm part of your good days, I'm part of your bad days. I have to motivate you when you're having, when your girlfriend dumped you, I have to motivate you when you're in exams. All of these things affect you guys externally.
Yes.
And they walk through the gate with you. They come to class with you. And as your coach, I have to manage that. I have to mitigate that. And ultimately, we become intertwined in one another's lives much further than just the pull-ups and the sit-ups and the parkour, the vaults, and the movements we're doing. Because I know I have to bear in mind that if you are having an emotionally down day, this is not the day when we're going to work on that fly away or cast away move that you've personally been having a rough relationship with. That's not the week. And I can remember even to the end of the year, last year, there were so many things that we wanted to do. And I was like, this is in the curriculum, this is where I want to step into. But the students weren't there. Mm-hmm. They were tired. Their personal lives, 2023 was a rough year. It was a rough year. It took strain on everybody. Mm. We used to have long classes. We actually had we shortened the classes because students just simply weren't there. They wouldn't have survived 2 hours of full physical training. Yeah. Because you guys just didn't recover. We do it on the one day, and the next day you come for training, everybody is half dead. Yeah. Your bodies just didn't recover, and that wasn't because you were bad students or you were unfit, or it was just because the outside life of 2023 was so rough and intense on everybody, and it affected us. So from a coach's side, I have to always keep all these things in mind when we decide what we're going to do and how we train, and that's kind of important. So I definitely agree. Bernard, you were still telling us about why you stuck with parkour.
I stuck with parkour.
Yes. So there were many sports.
Yeah.
And you did all of them. And then you ended up by parkour because of lockdown, let's be honest. Mm. And then why did you choose to stay?
Why did I choose to stay?
Because ultimately, a few years later, you had to choose between parkour and rugby, did you not?
Yeah. When I started here, I was actually also busy doing rugby.
Which you were good at.
Yeah.
It's not just blippy. You were good at rugby. You had a future into professional rugby.
Yeah. I might have. Anyways. As I was doing all these sports, I actually started missing gymnastics, and I started doing that again, and I just moved on. Okay, so then lockdown came, and after lockdown, that was a 6-month period. My dad said, now that lockdown's over, I've been sitting at home doing nothing. It's a waste of time. I should start with parkour again. And he came up with parkour. I don't know how. I think it's my cousin that did parkour.
Oh yeah, your cousin did parkour. That. Yes, your cousin was with us for a while.
Yeah, and that's how my father.
But he was also still a baba when he was busy with it. He was still young.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know actually why he's tough, but I'm thankful for the fact that he started doing that, because thanks to that I'm here today. And at first, when I started with this, when I walked in, I checked this place out, and it was all so strange to me. I've never seen something like this. It was just, to be honest, it looked like a playground that was. I didn't think that I would be able to do stuff here and grow here. It just looked. What's the word? It looked simple. But as I grew into it, meeting new people, connecting, and building relationships, because when I started, I didn't know anyone. But as I get to know them more and better, that is when I started growing. And I remember I didn't speak to anyone when I started. I was actually shy. That was the reason. Yeah. So as I started enjoying the sport more, I saw that there's a lot more to this, and the enjoyment of the sport is just I don't have words. It's perfect.
Well, yeah, but that's again, as I was saying. So just the physical aspects did trigger a response from you, but the more you got involved with the tribe, the lifestyle of parkour, that started connecting more with you than what the other sports, all of them, have done, because you've been in those, and it didn't work for you as well as the parkour one did. Which brings me to your how would you describe the difference between that guy that came here initially, and the motives, the reasons why you came? You now mentioned your dad. I haven't even asked you, how did you start parkour?
Sure. How long do you have?
The quick version.
Quick version. Let's see. So we went on holiday to a beach down in Natal or somewhere like that, and we were jumping in the waves, and I randomly decided I'm going to ask this guy next to me his name. Long story short, I found out he lives like literally a few houses away from me. We built a friendship, we went on, and he was doing this thing called parkour, but I didn't have a clue what it was. And back then the academy was still in Brooklyn, so it was also a distance from us. That was a good 20-minute drive from here. And then he stopped doing it, and then he stopped doing it for like a period of a year or something like that. And then he started having this thing again of, okay, he wants to do
This was
parkour.
Matthew.
Yes.
This was Matthew. Yeah, so the academy moved, and we actually moved far away, if I remember.
Oh, yes, you guys moved. Yeah,
We moved. The academy moved, and then when we moved again, because that was when we decided it's a good idea to move 3 times in 1 year. when we moved to where we are now, it was closer. Well, it's literally up the road.
Yes. Yeah, he started saying that he was recognizing, he saw you walking your dog in the street, but he couldn't exactly distinguish if it was you or not, because he knew you were in Brooklyn, so it didn't make sense for him. But that got him started on this parkour thing again, and he was like, yeah, the last he can remember was in Brooklyn, so it is a 20-minute drive, but we can... What's that thing called when you ride together?
Uber?
No.
Carpool.
We can carpool. We can carpool to the academy. So we already planned all the logistics out, and then when we actually typed it into Google, wanting to find out where the academy is, I saw it was in the street next to where I live.
Yeah, it's like 5 houses down.
Yes, I was like, this is not Brooklyn. Are we sure this is right? And it's from here to my house, as the crow flies, is like a minute. Fine, I have to walk down and up now, so if I have to, I walked every day to the academy. It took me 5 minutes. So that helped a lot, I must say. But just the fact that it was here got me started already, and the convenience. It was a lot easier for me to stick to something that was this convenient. But anyway, I started doing parkour, and it was about, 3 months in or so? Where you asked me if I wanted to do a coaches program. There was a coaches program that was starting then. So I got
leadership course.
Yeah, leadership course, which grew into the coaches program. And so I got connected early on. So I didn't have this, okay, I went through 2 years of being here and just having it as a sport. I went a few months, and then after that I connected, which was really great.
And what other sports did you do before this one?
I tried a whole bunch. I didn't try the wide range that he did. The most memorable sports for me would be swimming, cycling, and rugby. I've always wanted to play rugby. I had a stint of soccer, but I literally went to one training.
I remember that. I actually also did cycling.
Of course you did.
Like you said, name it. But I did I did those three were the memorable ones. I've always wanted to do rugby, but my size never permitted it. It's only recently that I've grown a bit bigger. I used to be a scrawny little thing. Oh. Swimming was fun, and I did it with my mom, so it was an easy thing to do. We went swimming in the evenings. And cycling I actually really enjoyed, but I enjoyed more the leisure part of cycling. So I wanted to do the races, but when you get into that scene, I only started in grade 9 or grade 8 or something like that, which means that people have been going at it for 10, 12 years. And then you get there and they do stuff that you can't. I think this should be enough to explain it. They can put their bike down and go sit on it and balance on the bike.
Oh, yes.
Without doing anything, and they just sit there and balance. It's like, how do you do that? But the point is they've been training for so long that they've got those skills, and I just couldn't compete. So I did it, but I always ended up last or something. So I did it for the enjoyment of actually just driving around these courses and the ups and the downs and the scary parts where you have to jump something. And so I did it for that, but nothing really connected me.
So then you started with parkour. What made you stick with it?
The big thing was the thing that made me stick for the first months of my parkour journey was the difference. It wasn't the competing sport. All my other things were competitive, and just because of my size and I was an active kid, but I wasn't strong. Just because of that, I always ended up last, and I was always the smallest kid and all of that stuff. So just because of that, there was more freedom. There was more freedom to just move, and you move at your own pace, and you can push yourself the way you want to. If you don't want to push yourself, you don't push yourself. But ultimately, you don't grow like that. But you almost have more control of what you're doing. I really enjoyed that, and then the leadership program that helped me a lot. Actually, getting involved with the inner workings and the behind the scenes of the academy helped a lot. It was really that. If I look back, that's probably where my life started changing for the better.
If I remember correctly, you get guys like him who are so comfortable with sport that they pick it up quickly. They really pick it up quickly, and that one part of it. A part of it they pick up quickly in parkour, but I really love it when guys like him get to a part because you struggle. There are some things that you've never in your life actually struggled with, and then you get here and you actually see this moment. They don't know how to deal with the fact that they can't do something. They've never done it because everything is just, okay, I can do this. Oh, yeah, sure, I can do this, and they wing it. They figure it out. And then parkour is the only sport that I've had to do with where guys like him get to this moment and they lose it completely because all of a sudden there's things that aren't figuring outable. But that notwithstanding, they do break through it. They get through it. He grows faster because of that gift that he has.
Yes.
Talent. Yeah. Because he is a sporty guy, he has a sporty talent. And then there are also students like you who aren't necessarily talented, but it's in your heart. You've got the heart to do something. And as a coach, I have to bring all of these people together, which is one of the reasons I prefer to not have high stakes parkour classes and that it's not high performance, so that it takes you longer. It took you much longer to grow into flip
much
than what it did him. You still got there, you still did it, and even in the training. So some moves would be easy for him and others would be hard. And then some moves would be easy for you and then others would be hard. But my life, they're never the same thing, which makes that difficult. But yes, that's why we do that. We don't have high performance. We don't put you into the performance part and the competition part of it necessarily, so that there's space for you to grow, so that you can grow into the areas you want to without the pressure that comes with it. Because some of these moves took you 2 or 3 years to do.
Yes, I'm like the point where I'm at now. Obviously now I'm a lot more comfortable because I've been going for another extra 2 years, but I only reached the point where I could confidently say or confidently almost record myself and say, I actually like what I see here. That took me 4 years. I remember it started on one holiday that we went down to the sea, and I found these new spots, and it was the first time that I actually myself was creative in creating routes. And I actually saw, okay, I've got the skills and I can do what I do, and I've got the abilities. But that only happened after 4 years. And then if we actually look back over 2023, we started with a crew in June or something like that, early on in the year, and he was already at that point. So if we say it's a year ago that he reached that point, he reached the point that took me 4 years to grow into. He reached it within a year. And then obviously you've got the small things, you've got your techniques and things like that, which some people struggle more with. Like, for instance, my flow is to this day still better than his, but his big movements, I can't rival that.
Having a gymnastics background does tend to help.
Yes, definitely. So my 6 years of parkour experience helps me with my flow, but his just gymnastics raw, just go for it thing helps him a lot more. Like the double Kong in the Centurion video, it took him. Yeah, I think he like walked up to the vault and almost attempted it in his mind like twice, and then he just did it. It took me. I had to cut out half of my takes. It took me a proper like 20 tries, and I still didn't get it. It's just because he's just there where he's just go for it, and I'm just not. So.
And also your thought process, you process things differently. So from a coaching point of view, we always have to adapt the modality.
Yes.
Because we have to adapt to both of you. He wants a different style, you want a different style. And what is in our country, the norm is our school sports cycles is usually a 1 year cycle.
Yes.
For you to make the rugby team, you have certain seasons in that year to qualify to do it. And when you're not ready there yet, you have to wait until next year to get to the next season for it. So there isn't a consistency in between growing necessarily, where because parkour is a full season thing and we don't work on a yearly cycle, the two of you can train in the same class where you've been training for 2 years and you've been training for 6 years, and yet both of you are allowed to be in the same space and learn and grow and learn from each other and grow off of each other, and motivate each other.
Yes.
Because I have seen that sometimes he doesn't take it well when anybody can do anything you can't do. So that immediately inspires him to go approach it. But even you do that. Even you would, when somebody, and he makes it look easy and all, but this, but you know him by now. You know when he has to really pull out to just barely get by, and when he just plunks over. It's like the double Kong. He just made that look easy, and you were really struggling with yourself. I saw that in the video. This didn't make sense to you, and if you were there for half an hour longer, you would have done it.
Yes.
And just by seeing him overcome that thing would have pulled you and encouraged you to get into it more, which is basically what parkour is and what parkour does. So Bernard, would you say that parkour is purely a physical activity, or is there a little bit more to it?
I would say parkour is not just about being fit, but I would say it's also great for the mind. For an example, you have to, if you can't just get that way, like around the wall or over the wall, in whichever way was in your mind to get to point B, you have to solve other problems to get to point B, maybe somehow differently. And so it could be a solving problem, also sport, I believe, because no matter how, you have to get to point B. That's the point of parkour. And I think it's also, if you do parkour regularly, you would also obviously get fit and all, and like when I started, I know I was weak, and compared from now to back then when I started, I would say my strength is like times 5 maybe.
Yes.
I've really become stronger. I can even feel it with the movements that I'm able to do now and that I was able to do back then.
I distinctly remember about you. You always made me think, when you started, you made me think of a German Shepherd puppy.
A German Shepherd puppy.
With these big floppy ears, and they're always falling over their own feet.
Now that you say that, yes.
Because that's how you moved. You fell over yourself. Oof. And you basically would start at the one end and you'd end up stumbling and rolling and falling and end up by the other end. And you'd get up, go, that was amazing, parkour! And we're all like, dear Lord, he survived that. Because you fell over yourself. And now when I look at you, yes, you've grown, and you were young when you started, so it is part of the normal growth process as well. But the growth personally that happened for you in terms of movement, how you carried yourself versus how you carry yourself now, how you've grown into your body, all of those small aspects together, when I look at the moves you do, that you get to do now, and they're just a fraction of where you'll end up. But if I see these big kongs, these moves that you're doing, and I see this process that you had to go through to grow and to be, that's been quite a journey. It's been quite a walk, and there's been a few stumbles and falls that you had to do. But even with you, Andrew, we've discussed how that boy that's up there on the screen, that boy ran around in the gym, and everything was in the mind. He was like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And you had all these big things. The heart was there, but you had lots of doubts in terms of what you could physically grow into, what you were physically capable of. And parkour helped you to overcome that. So the mental part, mentally, you guys had to grow into what you were physically doing. I also could see that both of you had to emotionally grow. You had the emotions of a spoon. When I met you, you just had it. They were all inside, but you couldn't communicate. You didn't know what to feel about what. There's been a few things that you've grown mentally, and as that has come into perspective, your parkour has grown with it. Your body has grown with it. Your capabilities have, so emotionally and spiritually you've grown in the past 5-6 years, and all of that basically then comes down to personal development.
Yes.
So parkour I find brings a whole lot of personal and social development. You mentioned it earlier, Bernard, about how the whole tribe of what parkour is has brought you to a place where you can physically grow and mentally grow and spiritually grow and emotionally grow. To have this personal development grow, and socially, I think being part of a tribe has a big social element to a whole bunch of stuff that we do. As I listen to you guys, I can clearly pick up that there's been an immense amount of...
I always avoided risks.
They'll automatically expect that of you.
I tore my shirt and my pants completely straight.
That nakedness, now I'm going to go do parkour.
It affected me.
That you actually have to trust somebody with the fact that you're struggling with something.
It feels good.
Simply just looking silly in front of somebody else because you haven't been there.
It's just relieving.
We're not wired genetically to show